I used to laugh at Russia during the time of the old Soviet Union, you know, because when they'd have a presidential election, you got to vote for the candidate. Hey, one person, you know, you vote for him, or I guess not vote for him, and then watch for the KGB. And I thought, oh, those Russians, are they dumb? And then I look at us. Well, let's take 2000, a selection of 2000, okay? You got Gore, who comes from an oil family, member of Skull and Bones, okay? Rich guy, Democrat. All right, if you don't like him, then you get George W. Bush. Comes from an oil family, rich, Skull and Bones, secret society member. Whoa. Where's the choice? You get Tweedledee or Tweedledum. Or in that case, Tweedledum-dum. I'm telling you, it's absolutely ridiculous. So you've got to get people, and you've got to get them off high center. And I think you're going to find that there's a lot of thinking people out there. And they've been reading stuff, and they've been watching TV. The media censorship, the media dam is cracking. The little Dutch boy has already used up all his fingers, and there's still holes appearing, okay? And we have to just keep pushing it. So get out there and talk it up, but now don't preach to people, okay? You try to preach to somebody, they get turned off. And then they get defensive. And then they put up their little shield. I don't want to hear that. Don't tell me that. That was a big surprise to me as a working journalist. I mean, you know, I knew that corporate and government leaders would lie to me and shuffle around, shuck and jive and dissemble. They didn't want the truth getting out there. I was prepared for that. I wasn't quite prepared, though, for the fact that my editors fought with me. How you know that? Where you get that? Well, you got 4 people that said that. How do we know that's true? I said, well, how do you know those government handouts are true? You just write it on the front page. You never ask them, how can you prove this? You know? So I had to fight with the editors, but then the real shocker was the number of people in the public that would tell me, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to know that. And that's where a bunch of them are, folks. And these are the zombies out there, okay? They watch TV. You know, what's really sad is, you know, I live up in a rural Wise County. And I tell you, there's more wide-awake people up there among some of the rednecks and the farmers and the poor folks up there. Well, they don't know all the particulars, and they don't have every name, date, and place, but they know that something's wrong and something's amiss. The ones that really agitate me are the so-called educated people. You know? College graduates working for the corporation. They're afraid they might lose their job in their cubicle. Yeah. And after all, they have their family's pictures tacked up on the wall of their cubicle. They don't want to lose that. You know, and of course they're just hoping to wait for their retirement, and they don't understand that 2 years for their retirement, their corporation's going to get rid of them so they don't have to pay any retirement. Look at all these poor people that work for American Airlines. What are they going to get? They're not getting those golden parachutes that the executives are getting. It's not right, folks. It's not right, and people are beginning to wake up. All right? The Occupy movement, you know. I was going to occupy Boyd. But the other guy got sick, and I didn't want to go by myself. But we really got to do something. And now go out and talk to people, start waking them up. Don't preach. One good way to do this would be to just ask them some questions. Act real dumb and naive and just say, well, you know, you're at work and you say, well, Fred, you know, if we're supposed to be so afraid of Al-Qaeda and that they're trying to slip weapons of mass destruction into our country, trying to destroy our freedom and democracy, how come they haven't done nothing to secure the border? Yeah. just right there on the outskirts of Del Rio, and I see this fence about 12 foot high with curving steel things at the top, and no cross pieces, so you couldn't climb on it. And I thought, wow, now there is a pretty strong fence, you know, nobody's gonna get over that sucker. And then all of a sudden,
hey, I missed your call.
It stopped. And there wasn't nothing over here.
Thank you, okay, I'll take it. Okay, bye-bye.
I looked back this way, it just went on and on and on, but over here there wasn't nothing. And I talked to my friends down there in Del Rio, you know, and I said, well, is this, you know, is there a border checkpoint here? And they said, no. I said, well, you know, if I was trying to slip in the United States, I wouldn't try that big fence, I'd just walk around. And then you may have seen the thing on the news here the last few days where they had some video of some people trying to get over the border, and they just, here's a big chain link fence, and they got a carjack. Jack the fence up, here they come. That's our border security, okay? So wait a minute, there's a disconnect there. You can't not have border security and be afraid of a terrorist organization slipping in your country. It just doesn't make sense. Either there is a terrorist organization, which means we need to secure the border, or there's not a terrorist organization, which means, okay, we can kind of let the border slide. Anybody wants to come in, that's okay. You can't have both, but they want both. This is the New World Order, folks. They don't want a secure border. They want to flood this country with illegals. And this is not a race thing. This is not a creed thing. It's not a religious thing. I don't care who comes to this country. I just want them to do it legally. Amen. Because, as the governor of Arizona said, and wrote in a letter, it's so true. That's like we have paid for our tickets to the football game, but somebody wants to sit in our seat for free. Doesn't work that way, okay? So let's ask that question. And then ask them, by the way, Fred, what do you think brought down that 47-story steel reinforced third building that went down on 9/11? 8 times out of 10, he's going to say, huh? So yeah, the Solomon Brothers building, you know, they called it World Trade Center 7. How does 2 planes bring down 3 buildings? Get old Fred to thinking about that one. Well, that's it. Just get people to thinking. Okay, and I know of no one who gets people thinking better than my friend, Alex Jones. Newspaper reporter. My job is just ferret out information and present it to you, and I don't have a bullhorn. But Alex does, and I can think of no one who's done more to bring truth and information to this country than Alex Jones.
Color, creed, religion that are going to decide the fate of our society and this world. It was 5.5, almost 6 years ago that I was last here at this theater, and I invited Jim Marsh to come up and we premiered my film, terror storm, a history of government-sponsored terrorism, to another capacity crowd of great patriots. And here we are, almost 6 years later. My friends, you've noticed how everything is accelerating. Everything is condensing down. There's a quickening happening. Within the next 5 to 6 years, to a great extent, more is going to happen than we've seen the last 50 years. We're going to see events, if we're here together 6 years from now, that are going to really change the future course of humanity for good or for evil. And all of you intellectually know that. You know that in your gut. Everyone is concerned and can see it. But because a lot of people like Jim Mars and countless others were willing to talk about these issues 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, I interviewed people who were talking about the New World Order, the global corporate fascist system 50 years ago, because they were inside government corporations and saw the plans for it. Because the globalists were gaining power and funding themselves as they expanded towards their goal of total world dominion, not just over nations, but over individuals. This system we face is a revolution against the very human system itself by technocrats who, in their own words, think that they're God and think that they're playing God and will become physical gods. And I've had the New York Times, CNN, you name it, say, Alex Jones made a film called Endgame, Looking for Global Enslavement, where he says the global elite are going to live forever. I didn't say that. I quoted all the top futurists like Ray Kurzweil and others who has meetings with the Rockefellers and all the rest of them. And these people have been saying this for at least 100 years. It's their goal. I don't know if they're going to attain it. But in so many public documents that will make your head spin, that I've covered on the radio, TV, you've seen it, you've read it, it's on their own foundation websites, they say they're going to establish world government, not to dominate us, but to kill us once it's in place so they can have the whole planet for themselves. So that's what we face. And the minions of the system, those who think they can serve this system and get power out of it, people think they bet on the New World Order, so they're part of the big winning team. You're on the globalist bandwagon. Your team's going to the Super Bowl. They are the biggest fools of all. This system is going to come into fruition. The question is, what are we going to do in the fight against it? Because if we resist the New World Order, it will collapse of its own weight. That's God's promise, common sense's promise, history's promise. But if we lay down and give in to it, it seeks to fully take control of our psyches, our minds, our very souls. Because at the end of the day, the New World Order could care less about money. They print that. They could care less about property except for a mode of control. They want our minds. They want your soul. Don't ever forget that. They believe in it. And the New World Order's greatest trick is convincing you you're an animal and don't have free will. They know full well the opposite. And they are scared of you because evil is weak. It seeks to make you weak so it can dominate you. Now, I got 4 pages of notes I want to go over. And the problem is I've never given a speech where I actually follow my notes. But after we premiere this 40-minute mini documentary, it's not really mini, it's 40 minutes. It's a mini means 10 minutes. I'm going to come back out here and give you about an hour-and-a-half speech. Then we got some microphones up here. I'll take about 30 minutes of questions. But I'll tell you this, there's a lot of reasons I don't do events. A, I can electronically reach exponentially more people. And B, it is always humbling to come out and meet all the wonderful, beautiful people who have beautiful minds, beautiful souls, to see people here with their children, to see others. It is so humbling. And I'll tell you, it's painful, because to fight the New World Order is one thing, but to actually go out and see the best parts of humanity, it's just, it is a great weight to realize so many people are counting on me. But I'll tell you this, so I don't sit here feeling like I have the weight of the world on me. I'm going to be honest with you. Listen, I can't do anything for you folks. I'm telling you the weight of the world's on you, but it's not a weight. Take it on, and it will empower you and